You should hear what keeps him up at night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. To keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro. What's funny, though, is that Stern actually thought that was a compliment. Stern has become such a wussified sycophant, he doesn't realize that telling Kamala that he'd vote for a wall is telling her that he knows she's as dumb as one.
Howard Stern built his empire on shock, rebellion, and tearing down the establishment.
Once a pioneer of shock radio, he made a name and an empire out of doing the things no one else dared. So when Stern popped up in one of Gutfeld's segments, casually, then suddenly, not so casually, here was the man who built an empire mocking phoniness, now wearing the very mask he used to tear off others. The contrast between the two couldn't have been more vivid. The aftermath was instant.
What happens
Social
when the
media
uncensored
lit up with
icon
clips,
gets out-rebelled on
commentary,
his turf?
and reactions from...
But that's how Stern can call snacking with celebs at a fancy restaurant exhausting. Exhausting. Like he finished the overnight shift in a coal mine. Or hearing Kat talk about her pets.
Fair.
But I get it, life is tough, especially when you've been cut off from the world for 2 years in a $20 million beach house. I mean, you have no idea how tiring it is walking all the way from the wine cellar to the tennis court and back.
There are
Every
TV
possible
moments you
corner of
watch
the
and
internet.
forget, and
The
then
clip had
there are
gone
the ones
viral,
that burn
and not
themselves
because of
into
some
pop
outrageous
culture like a
statement
meteor
that he'd been
strike.
caught off guard,
Loud,
and maybe
fiery, and
deep
impossible
down,
to ignore.
even
The
agreed
recent
with the
clash
criticism.
between Greg
A
Gutfeld
mirror
and Howard Stern on
reflecting its
live
slow
television
decay.
was one of those
Does
moments.
Stern reclaim his edge
It wasn't
and prove
just a
the critics
war of
wrong,
words. It
or
was
does
a
he continue
cultural
down the
collision.
polished, professional
Two
path
media
that
giants
makes him
from
more
totally
palatable but
different
less
planets
powerful?
collided,
But when
and
Greg
only
Gutfeld
one of them walked away
aimed,
looking like he
the
still
king
belonged
of
in the
controversy
stratosphere.
went radio
Howard
silent.
Stern has
He
long
was the
worn the crown
brash
of the
voice
king
of
of all
rebellion.
media.
But it is incredibly brave to take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke, right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comments, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And then they went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came. So I call this BFR. It's blackface reparations. There's nothing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last. But they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's
unfiltered conscience of a generation fed up. This Gutfeld didn't even have to
icon.
exaggerate.
Once
All
a
he had to
pioneer
do
of
was
shock
describe
radio,
the
he made a name
transformation.
and an empire
The symbolism
out of
was
doing the things
devastating.
no one else dared.
Stern built
He was
his
the
legacy
brash
in a
voice of
time when
rebellion,
breaking the
the
rules
unfiltered
meant getting
conscience of a
fined by the
generation fed
FCC,
up with
banned
polite
from
society.
networks, but
Stern's
because
name was
Gutfeld had
synonymous
said
with
what a lot of
disruption,
former Stern
defiance, and
fans had been
controversy.
thinking for
You either
years,
loved
but
him
never
or
said
hated
out
him,
loud.
but you couldn't ignore
Viewers
him.
who once admired
But
his
here's the
fire
thing
were
about
left
being a
wondering
rebel
where that
king.
edge had
Stay
gone.
on the throne too
It
long,
wasn't just
and
that
the
he
edge starts
didn't
to dull.
respond.
Over the years,
Gutfeld's
Stern has
rise wasn't
undergone a slow,
accidental.
curious
It was built on the
transformation.
very trait.
I will say this, Dagan. I thank God for Howard Stern because he does make me feel normal by comparison. Because I'm like the Fox recluse. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. But he makes me look like, Pete Davidson on a...
Yeah, he's a germaphobe. Like, his wife rescues cats. That's her job, apparently, her thing. But you can get toxoplasmosis.
That's
and
true.
Cryptosporidiosis.
AIDS.
And
No, you can't,
no,
but...
you can't get.
No, you can't.
But you can get
I mean, what are the chances I get that again?
like a lot of diarrhea related. Like,
A brash
Stern once
outsider to a
embodied, and does
soft-spoken
Gutfeld,
celebrity
now
interviewer
clearly
rubbing
unafraid to
shoulders
punch
with
up,
Hollywood's
become the
elite.
new face
The
of
Howard
unfiltered
Stern of
commentary.
today often
No
feels more like a
comebacks,
polished
no
talk show
fire,
host
just
than the
awkward
volcanic
silence
force he
echoing
once
louder
was.
than words.
And
In a
that's where
stunning
Greg
live segment,
Gutfeld saw an
Gutfeld
opening,
didn't just
a
call out
glaring,
Stern's
vulnerable
evolution
crack in
with
the armor.
polite society.
Gutfeld, for all his
Stern's
critics, has
name was
mastered the art of
synonymous with
televised
disruption,
confrontation.
defiance,
The man
and
is part
controversy.
political
The
commentator,
stage was set.
part late-night jester,
What began as a
and
brief
part
mention
cultural
turned into a
demolition
focused,
expert.
almost
He doesn't just
surgical
argue. He
takedown. The
dissects,
shock jock
ridicules,
who
and
once spat on the
exposes
red
with his
carpet
nightly
had
show,
now rolled it
blending
out for
sarcasm,
himself
satire, and stinging
screamed at by
commentary.
sponsors.
Gutfeld has built his empire by targeting sacred cows and igniting fires where others feared to tread. So when Stern popped up in one of Gutfeld's segments, casually, then suddenly, not so casually, the stage was set. What began as a brief mention turned into a focused, almost surgical takedown.
Unfiltered humor,
Gutfeld didn't
relentless
just question
defiance
Stern's
in a world
transformation,
desperate
he
for it. One thing's
dismantled
for
it.
sure,
He challenged
the torch has been
trajectory
passed,
of
or
Stern's
maybe it was
evolution.
snatched.
Mocking
Either
the
way,
man
the
who
showdown
once
between
thrived on
Greg
chaos
Gutfeld
for
and
now
Howard
preaching
Stern wasn't
conformity
just a
from his
media
penthouse
moment.
studio.
It was a
On his radio show, Howard Stern defended wokeism, saying it's a compliment when someone calls him woke. Listen.
If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, well, dude, call
cultural shift.
This wasn't
he
some
exposed it as a full-blown
sellout. Leaned in hard.
The rebel had
framed
become
Stern
the system.
Not as a legend, but as
you
a
either loved
cautionary
him
tale.
or hated him.
The message was
but you
clear.
couldn't
Howard
ignore
Stern,
him.
once
but here's
a
the thing
fearless
about being a
iconoclast,
rebel
had become
king.
exactly
Gutfeld
what he used
didn't
to rage
just question
against.
Stern's transformation.
In Gutfeld's world, that's
it.
the cardinal
guy
sin.
who once wore
Selling
defiance
out,
like a badge of honor now
down,
seemed obsessed
becoming part
with
of the very machine
Hollywood
you once
approval.
fought to
Gutfeld,
destroy.
on the other hand, came
There
up
was no
in an
need
era
for
where
shouting.
cancel culture,
Gutfeld didn't raise his
outrage mobs,
voice or
and
froth
social
at the
media
mouth.
takedowns
Instead,
were the new
he
form of
sliced with
censorship.
precision, the way a
He
surgeon
learned to
handles a
fight with
scalpel.
sarcasm
He
instead of
compared the
swear
old
words,
Stern, the
ridicule instead of
wild-handed,
shock value.
reckless
In many
truth
ways, the
bomber who
Gutfeld-Stern
terrified
showdown
censors
wasn't
and
just a
mock
battle of
elites.
personalities.
With the new,
Is it inevitable that
meticulously
every
groomed
firebrand
Stern,
becomes
who now
part of the
cozied up to
establishment they
celebrity,
once despised?
he once
Or
shredded.
worse,
It was a
not
quiet
in defiance,
gutting, a brutal
but in
unraveling
confusion.
of a legacy
In
carefully
an industry built on
rebellion,
reaction
but now
and narrative
teetering on
control,
respectability.
Stern's failure
The
to respond wasn't
practically
just a
wrote
missed
itself.
opportunity.
Here was
and
the
zero
man
regard
who built
for
an
polished
empire
narratives.
mocking
A generational
phoniness,
handoff,
now wearing the
a
very
public
mask
reckoning
he used
for
to
a
tear
man
off others.
who once was
Gutfeld
the
didn't
reckoning.
even have to
And
exaggerate.
Gutfeld lit the match.
All he
What
had to do
happens
was
when the
describe the
uncensored icon
transformation.
gets out-rebelled
The symbolism
on his
was
turf?
devastating. The
Stay on the
shock
throne
jock
too
who
long,
once spat
and
on the
the
red
edge
carpet had
starts
now
to dull.
rolled
Over
it out
the
for
years,
himself.
he challenged.
But Stern being holed up in his house that long, it explains a lot of things, like how you forget how other people live, especially in hard times like a pandemic. For the longest time, 2 years in fact, the same time Stern's been AWOL, I wondered where he went. Not physically, but mentally. I bet you did too. Remember his screeds about COVID? They were epic and angry, and not to mention wrong.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? F them, f their freedom. I want my freedom to.
The entire trajectory of Stern's evolution, mocking the man who once thrived on chaos, corporate approval,
Hollywood
mainstream approval,
corporate approval.
What made it hit even harder was the context.
What made it hit
it was
even
a clash
harder
between two
was
eras
the
of media.
Gutfeld's
Do they all
show
eventually
thrives
start
on
defending that
irreverence,
establishment
on turning
once their seat
sacred
at the
cows
table is
into
secure?
burgers.
It felt like
So
quiet
when he aimed at
confirmation.
Stern, it wasn't just another
Meanwhile,
celebrity
Gutfeld
feud.
continued,
It was
almost
a generational
smugly, while legacy
indictment.
media
One
stumbles
voice
under the weight
accusing
of
another of
self-censorship
losing
and
its
corporate
soul.
sensitivity.
The punch wasn't just
Gutfeld
personal,
has filled
it
the
was
vacuum with
philosophical.
bold, brash
And
commentary
Stern,
that
for
resonates.
once, had
and
no
whether you
comeback,
love or
no
hate
fireworks,
either
no
of them, you
takedown of his
felt
own.
it.
Just
you
a
knew
thunderous
something
silence.
had changed. Because
Gutfeld
that's what
didn't need to
happens
win
when
the
a king
exchange.
gets called
The
out by
fact
the
that
court
it landed
jester.
so
There are
cleanly,
TV
and that the
moments
public
you watch
immediately
and
sensed
forget.
something truthful
And then
in it was
Stern
the
has
real
undergone
victory.
a slow,
Stern,
curious
once the guy
transformation.
who called everyone
For now
out,
preaching
was finally
conformity
the one
from his
being
penthouse
called out.
studio.
And this time,
Gutfeld's
it
show
stuck.
thrives on irreverence,
Viewers watched
on
in
turning
real time as
sacred cows
Gutfeld
into
painted
burgers.
Stern as a ghost
So when he
of his
aimed at
former
Stern,
self.
Gutfeld
It wasn't
embodies the
loud or
modern digital
belligerent, it was
insurgency,
sharp,
slick,
cold, and
sarcastic,
cutting. It struck
meme-ready
a nerve,
rebellion that
not just with
Gutfeld
fans
seemed to
of either
argue that the
figure,
problem
but with
wasn't that
anyone
Stern
who's
had
witnessed
changed,
a once
like a
revolutionary
man who knew
voice
he had
fade
thrown
into
a punch that
comfortable
landed.
irrelevance.
He didn't gloat,
The contrast between
but
the
he
two
didn't
couldn't
need
have
to.
been more
The internet
vivid.
was
Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now. I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
doing
built
it
his
for
legacy
him.
in a time
Thousands
when
of
breaking
comments,
the rules meant
retweets,
hefty
and
fines
YouTube
from the
reactions.
FCC,
He
bans
taps
from
into the
networks,
hunger
and
for
angry
authenticity that
sponsors pulling
Stern once
ads.
fed.
But that very
especially
resistance
when the
made him
gesture is
powerful,
sharper,
raw,
faster, and
untamed,
still
and
hungry for the
fearless.
fight. There are the ones that burn
Gutfeld,
themselves
on the
into
other hand,
pop
came up in
culture
an era where
like a
cancel
meteor
culture,
strike.
outrage
From a brash
mobs, and social
outsider
media
to a
takedowns
soft-spoken
became the new
celebrity
form of
interviewer
censorship.
rubbing
He
shoulders
learned
with
to fight
Hollywood's
with
elite.
sarcasm
And
instead
let's
of
be
swear
clear,
words,
this
ridicule
wasn't some
instead of
offhand
shock
jab.
value.
Gutfeld
In many ways, the
leaned
Gutfeld-Stern showdown
hard.
wasn't just a battle of
It wasn't just another
personality.
celebrity
It was a clash
feud.
between two
It was a
eras of
generational
media.
indictment.
Gutfeld embodied
One voice
the
accusing
modern
another of
digital
losing its
insurgency.
soul,
Slick,
thrives on calling out
sarcastic,
hypocrisy
meme-ready
in
rebellion,
30-second
thriving on
viral
exposing
bursts.
hypocrisy in
And the
30-second
audience?
viral bursts.
It was how he
The audience
changed.
witnessed it
Not through a
unfold like a
genuine
courtroom
ideological
drama,
shift,
with no judge,
but through
just
calculated
two gladiators
self-preservation.
and millions
Did more to
waiting to
validate
declare
his
a winner.
critique than any follow-up
And what
monologue
really stung
ever could.
Stern was how
But where
effortlessly
Stern now
Gutfeld
opts
pulled
for
back
soft
the curtain.
interviews and
He didn't
social
attack
acceptance,
Stern's past,
Gutfeld
he praised
charges
it.
forward.
The real
reckless
insult
and
lay
raw.
in the comparison.
In the crumbling
Happy Friday, America! Oh man, tonight is a special night. It's Feminine Friday, where all the panelists are women. Tonight we have Kennedy. Yeah! David McDowell. Kat Tim. And Janine Garofalo. A long way for a meat joke. Okay, I hope you had a good week. I did, and no thanks to Howard Stern. True, the New York Post reported that Stern hit a chic restaurant in NYC with a crew of A-listers, including Jimmy Kimmel, Jennifer Aniston, Jon Hamm, Justin Theroux, Jason Bateman. I was not invited. I guess
media
Gutfeld
landscape, it's not just a battle of personalities.
Establishment would have
Loud,
shredded the
fiery,
sanitized version
and
now showing up on
ignore.
satellite
the
radio
Howard
and
Stern
late
of
night
today
talk
often
shows
feels
dressed
more like
in
a
designer
polished
hoodies.
talk show host
The old
than the
Stern wouldn't
volcanic
even
force he
recognize
once
this polished
was.
persona.
He framed Stern not as a legend,
The man who now
but as a
waxed
cautionary
philosophical
tale.
with
The
Hollywood
message was
elites
clear.
and played
The punch
softball
wasn't
interviews
just
with
personal,
A-listers like
it
he
was
was hosting a
philosophical.
charity
And Stern,
telethon.
for once,
To Gutfeld,
had no comeback.
Stern had
No
transformed from
fireworks,
cultural
no takedown of his
sniper
own.
to media
They saw
monk.
it all unfold like a
Muzzled,
courtroom drama with
manicured,
no
and far
judge,
too
just two
comfortable
gladiators
with the
and a
very
million
system he
viewers
once
waiting
set
to declare a
ablaze.
winner.
And once
What
that
really
image
stung
stuck,
for Stern
there was no
how
unseeing
easily
it.
Gutfeld pulled
The
back the
aftermath was
curtain.
immediate.
The
Social
man
media
who once
exploded
claimed
with
to
clips,
fear
commentary,
nothing
and
now
reactions
seemed
from every
afraid
corner
of
of the internet.
offending
The clip
anyone.
went
What made it
viral.
all the more
Not for outrageous
fascinating
claims,
was that
but because
Gutfeld wasn't
voiced
attacking
what
a
many
random
former Stern
celebrity.
fans had been thinking
He was
for
aiming
years,
at
but never
someone
dared to
who
say
gets a
out loud.
changing of the guard.
It
It's not
also
about
sparked
politics,
a bigger
it's
question.
about authenticity.
Can anyone
or at least the
truly remain
perception
a rebel
of it.
forever?
The recent class.
Stern got even more pathetic, wondering how she doesn't nap.
When you said you don't nap, I get it, because like what you've taken on is extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, do you feel the pressure of the moment in the sense that, like when I met you out in the hall, I said, I'm really nervous because I want this to go well for you. I want it to go well for the country.
Hold on. I need a minute.
Is it inevitable that every firebrand
Stern
eventually becomes
television,
part of the establishment they once despised, or worse, do they all start defending that establishment once their seat at the
Gutfeld,
table
for
is
all
secured?
his critics, has mastered the
Gutfeld
art
seemed
of
to
televised
argue the
confrontation.
problem wasn't that
Howard
Stern
Stern, once a
changed,
fearless
but how he
iconoclast,
changed,
had become
not
exactly
through a
what he used to rage against.
ideological evolution,
In
but
Gutfeld's
through
world,
calculated
that's the cardinal
self-preservation.
sin. Selling
the man
out,
who once
toning
claimed
down,
to fear nothing
becoming part,
now seemed
just a
afraid of
thunderous
offending
silence.
anyone. The one who
Gutfeld
mocked
didn't
celebrity
need to
culture
win
now
the
appeared
exchange.
obsessed with being
The
accepted
fact
by
that it landed so cleanly
In Gutfeld's
and that the
view,
public
that kind of
immediately sensed
transformation
something
isn't
truthful
growth,
in it
it's
was the
surrender.
real victory.
Ironically,
he didn't
Stern's
attack
silence
Stern's
after the
past.
takedown
He
only made
praised
things
it.
worse.
The insult
man who built
was
his
in the
career on
comparison.
confrontation,
The
who
one who
eviscerated
mocked
critics
celebrity
with lightning
culture
fast
now appeared
comebacks suddenly
obsessed with being
disappeared.
accepted by it.
Fair or not,
Once
he gave the impression
defined
that
the
Stern
very
had
act
nothing
of
left in the
attacking
tank.
others. Howard Stern
That
had built
he'd
a
been
career
caught
on
off
targeting
guard.
hypocrisy,
And maybe,
in that moment
deep
on
down,
live TV,
even agreed with the
Gutfeld looked like the
criticism.
more.
This definition of woke, it's if you call someone a know-it-all, you're not complimenting them on the breadth of their knowledge. You're saying you don't know as much as you think you know. So yeah, woke doesn't have anything to do with vaccines. What it really means is sort of a slavish devotion to left-wing ideology and then repeating it so you can get social credit.
Right.
That's really what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're smarter than anybody. And he had said in another part of this that because I believe in the science, well, if you believed in the science, you wouldn't be hiding out like Howard Hughes in your mansion. So
viewers who once admired Stern's fire were left wondering where that edge
was
had gone.
One of those moments.
It wasn't just a war of words. It was that he couldn't.
A cultural collision.
Gutfeld threw
the man
a punch
is part
and
political
Stern
commentator,
didn't
part
even
late-night gesture,
Not out
and
of
part
defiance,
cultural
but
demolition
confusion.
expert of the very machine
in an
you once
industry
fought
built
to
on
destroy.
reaction and narrative
There was no
control,
need for shouting.
Stern's
Gutfeld
silence
didn't raise
wasn't
his
just a
voice
missed
or froth.
opportunity.
Stern, once the
It
guy who
felt
called
like
everyone
quiet
out, was
confirmation.
finally the one being
Meanwhile,
called out.
Gutfeld carried
and this
on
time,
almost smugly,
the
like
old
a man
Stern
who knew
Gutfeld
he had landed a
implied would have
knockout
torn
blow.
apart the
He didn't
sanitized
need to
version that
gloat.
now
The
showed up
internet
on
did it
satellite
for
radio
him.
and late
Thousands
night,
of
and
comments,
ego and
retweets, and
phoniness.
viral YouTube
It wasn't just
reactions
celebrity
validated
gossip
his
or late-night
critique
drama
far more
if it
than
meant
any
going
follow-up
after a
monologue
legend.
ever could.
Stern, by
What made
contrast,
it all the more
looked like he was still
fascinating was
clinging
that
to a
Gutfeld wasn't
reputation.
attacking
Two
just
media
any
giants
celebrity.
from
He
totally
was going
different
after
planets
someone who once
collided,
defined the
and
art
only
of
one of
attack.
them walked
Howard
away
Stern built a
looking like
career
he still
targeting
belonged
hypocrisy,
in the stratosphere.
ego, and phoniness.
He doesn't
this
just
wasn't
argue.
celebrity gossip
He
or late-night
dissects,
drama.
ridicules,
It was a
and
mirror held up to
exposes
Stern's
the
own
mouth.
legacy.
Instead,
And that's the
he
curse of being a
sliced
legend.
with
Your
precision,
past self
the
becomes
way a
the
surgeon
measuring
handles a
stick. When you
scalpel.
fall short,
He compared
no
the
one's
old
more
Stern,
brutal than
the
your former
wild-haired,
fans.
reckless.
I always hate that argument, like, what happened to the old Stern or what people have changed. That's not what this is about. It's a weird disconnect.
Well, he hasn't changed.
No.
People have been calling him insane for 40 years.
Yeah,
that just used to be, this guy's nuts. And now they're like, oh, we're worried about Howard. He needs help. But I'll tell you, though, I'm a little sympathetic because what you said is correct, but I'm also a germaphobe.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just have a smaller apartment.
Yes.
So, like,
The
Truth
entire
bomber who
exchange,
terrified
direct or
censors
not,
and mocked
felt like
elites.
a scathing
It
commentary
stuck.
on
Viewers
the media
watched in
industry
real
at
time
large.
as
A mirror
Gutfeld painted
reflecting
Stern
its
as
slow
a ghost
decay.
of his former
Gutfeld's
self.
rise wasn't
Talk shows in a
accidental.
designer
It was
hoodie.
built on the
That
very
old Stern
traits
wouldn't
Stern
have
once
recognized the
embodied,
man
but now
who now,
seems to
in
have buried.
Gutfeld's view, that kind of
Unfiltered
transformation
humor,
isn't
relentless
growth,
defiance,
it's surrender.
and zero regard for
it was a
polished
mirror
narratives.
held up to the idea of
While
legacy.
legacy media stumbles
Stern
under the
was
weight of
being asked to
self-censorship
reckon
and
with
corporate
the weight of
sensitivity,
his
Gutfeld
history.
has filled the
That's the
vacuum with
curse
bold,
of being a
brash
legend.
commentary that
Your
resonates.
past self
He
becomes
taps
the
into
measuring
hunger
stick.
for
And
authenticity
if you fall
that
short,
Stern once
that no
fed.
longer matched
But where
his reality.
Stern now opts for soft
Howard
interviews
Stern
and
has
social
long worn
acceptance,
the crown of the
Gutfeld
king of all
charges
media.
forward, reckless,
With his
raw,
nightly show
and
blending
unapologetic
sarcasm,
in a
satire,
crumbling
and
media
stinging
landscape.
commentary,
This
Gutfeld
wasn't
has
just a
built his
battle of
empire
personality.
with the new,
It was a changing of the
meticulously
guard,
groomed
not
Stern,
about
who
politics,
now
but
cozied up
about
to celebrities he
authenticity,
once
or at least the
shredded.
perception of
It wasn't loud
In that
or
moment
belligerent.
on live TV,
It was sharp,
Gutfeld looked
cold
like the
and
more
cutting,
authentic
and
voice.
it struck a
the
nerve,
man willing
not
to
just with
say
fans
the
of either
unsayable,
figure,
even if it
waxed
meant going
philosophical
after a
with Hollywood
legend.
elites,
Stern,
or
by
played
contrast,
softball
looked like he
interviews
was
with
still
A-listers like he
clinging
was
to
on
a
a charity
reputation that
telethon.
no longer
To
matched his
Gutfeld,
reality.
Stern had gone from
Striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate. But maybe that's the explanation. This is Stern's self-imposed penance for subjugating women to demoralizing stunts, capitalizing on desperate females thirsting for attention, even if it's from an oily paddle striking their bare asses.
From
Whether or not
cultural
that's
sniper
fair
to
isn't the
media
point.
monk.
In media,
muzzled,
perception is
manicured.
reality.
Ironically,
The question
Stern's
now
silence
is,
in the
what
immediate
happens next?
aftermath
Will
only
Stern
made things
reclaim
worse.
his edge and
No
silence
one's
the
more
critics?
brutal than
or
your
will he
former
continue
fans.
down the polished
If you're
professional
enjoying this
path
video,
that makes
please
him
make
more
sure to
palatable
subscribe
but
to the
less
channel and hit
powerful?
the bell
And
icon
can
by
Gutfeld,
targeting
now
sacred
clearly unafraid
cows
to punch
and
up,
igniting
become the new
fires where
face of
others
unfiltered
feared to
commentary
tread.
in a world
It was a
desperately
quiet
craving it?
gutting, a
One thing's
brutal
certain,
unraveling
the
of a
torch has
legacy
been
carefully
passed.
built
Or
on
maybe
rebellion,
snatched.
but now teetering
Either way, the
on
showdown
respectability.
between Greg Gutfeld and
The
Howard
absurdity
Stern wasn't just a
practically wrote
media
itself,
moment. It was
but
a
with
cultural
anyone who's
shift,
watched
a
a once
generational
revolutionary
handoff,
voice
a public
fade
reckoning
into
for a
comfortable
man
irrelevance.
who once was the
And all
reckoning.
too comfortable with the very
And whether
system
you love or
he
hate
once
either
burned
of them,
down. And
you
once
felt
that
it.
image stuck,
You knew something
there was
had
no
changed,
unseeing it.
because
The man
that's
who
what
once
happens when a
thrived on
king gets called
confrontation,
out by
who
the
built
court
an entire
jester,
career out of
especially
eviscerating
when the
critics
jester
with
is
lightning
sharper,
fast
faster, and
comebacks,
still hungry
suddenly
for the fight.
disappeared.